I want to ask you something pretty simple, but kind of deep. And that is, what does your average Tuesday look like? Just, your regular, everyday, nothing special day of the week. I chose Tuesday simply because it is a Tuesday that I'm filming this video. But I wanted to explore that question because I think your answer to it can tell you pretty much everything you need to know about the life that you're trying to build for yourself. So let's get into it. Oh, and by the way, my dog is sleeping in the background, and you will probably hear him snoring because he snores like a 100-pound dog, and he is a very tiny Shih Tzu, but you wouldn't know it because of how loud he snores. But this is usually, his nap time, his bedtime. So, in any event, um, what does your ideal Tuesday look like? So, I think it's important to ask ourselves this is because a lot of, lifestyle design content out there really focuses on the highlight reels of life, right? Vacations, weekends, you know, achieving, major milestones in life, right? All of the biggest, most exciting, parts of life that of course you want to be included in your, in your lifestyle. But I think it's important for us to actually focus on the normal, everyday, day to day stuff because that is where the detail lies. That is really where, you're spending the majority of, that is where the meat and potatoes, I guess I should say, of your lifestyle design lives. And what I mean by that is because you're not going to be on vacation 24/7, right? And how you set up your just regular day, the days that you're in it, each and every day, focusing on that is just literally the key, right? To, building a life that you want to live. And so I just think it's important that we take the time to really think about that, right? So for me, my ideal Tuesday is, you know, very basic, but very simple, nothing extraordinary. But there's one aspect of it that I want to focus on. So for me, an ideal day for me is, pretty simple. It's getting up pretty early to take my dog out, for a nice walk, you know, coming back, maybe getting some, time, getting a workout in at the gym for no more than an hour. Don't want to spend all day in the gym. Or even maybe doing an at-home workout, honestly. Most likely not really, a gym, but just being able to, get a nice effective workout at home, right? You know, get prepared to start my work day. And then this is where it kind of gets interesting, at least for me, right? So I'm working remotely at this point, right? I'm in complete control of my work schedule. So I'm not working a traditional, 9 to 5, even remotely. I am working, as an independent consultant, right? Preferably doing project-based work where I got a certain time frame to get something done, and as long as I get that thing done within that time frame, I get paid, right? So just having complete autonomy over when I choose to work. And for me, that's probably working on average of 4 hours a day, right? Depending on the difficulty and scale of whatever the project is that I'm working on. But again, ideally about 4 hours a day. And after that, again, just hanging out with my dog, getting into a hobby, depending on what the hobby is at that time. I enjoy reading, you know. I'm actually really getting into cozy gaming. I'm really enjoying it. I've kind of been stuck on this one particular game right now, but I could definitely see just spending some time doing something simple like that, or really just, sitting down, reading a book, drinking a cup of coffee or a cup of tea, and sitting, hanging out with my dog. And it's just so simple, right? And this is just an ideal day. These are just the activities that I know that I'd want to get done, um, barring any outside, things or other average things like, chores and running errands. But the biggest thing, the biggest takeaway here for me is that just having complete control over my time and my schedule, which, if you're working full time, you don't really have complete control, over your time and your schedule, right? Because a lot of times we're building our life around our work, right? Our work schedule. Because that's how we're earning a living. That's how we're making a living to take care of ourselves and our families, right? So you have to do everything around, work. If you're working a traditional 9 to 5 type job, of course, there are people who have control of their schedule, but this is just specifically for, you and I who are ready to make changes in our lives, because that traditional 9 to 5 is not working for us. It hasn't been working for us. We're feeling unfulfilled. We're hitting burnout, or and we're ready to make a change, right? So, again, for me, just very simple, and just having complete control over my, time and my schedule, because that's one of the three, pillars, is pursuing, time freedom, location freedom, and financial freedom, right? Those are my three biggest things. And then all the other nuances, that come along with it in between, right? So that's really what the goal is. And currently I'm on a career break. I have quit my job about almost, 2.5 months ago, I would say. And I'm kind of getting a little bit of a taste of that now, as far as my, having control over my schedule, right? And, how I spend my time, you know, um, granted, I'm not working right now, by choice, but I'm getting a chance to spend all the time in the world with my dog, which, if you haven't been able to tell right now, is extremely important to me, because these last 2.5, almost 3 years, I have not been able to spend time with my dog. And my mom has been so the biggest support, and she's helped me out so much, because she pet sat, my dog for me, because I had a crazy work schedule on top of, I was going to graduate school full time, and in between that, trying to work on building my career. So I was studying for these, very intense, IT certifications that really, any spare time or any free time that I had, I would use it to, study for, certifications on top of school and working full time, right? So, and that was, pretty much my life for almost the last 3 years. And, and so I hadn't been able to, spend as much time with my dog as I would have liked. And so when I decided that I was going to take a break from work, that was one of the, because after a while, it really started bothering me. Like, I was like, man, I miss my dog, So it was one of those things that was in the forefront of my mind amongst a lot of other things. But this is just a prominent example, just because, um, you know, I'm able to come home and, now be home and spend time with him as well as my mom. But, and I'm just like, yeah, this is, I miss this, just playing with my dog and him, laying on my lap while I'm sitting and watching TV or playing a game or, reading or doing whatever. Right. And I'm like, man, this is the stuff that I have been looking forward to. And so it's a big part. It's something that I value. And it's a big part of what my ideal day would look like. Now that you've listened to me ramble on about my dog, because I love him. That's my little baby. That's my son. But anyway, so yeah, again, just, having a chance to kind of get a little taste of that now. Now, granted, my move home was for a number of different reasons. Having a little bit of caretaking responsibilities here in the short term, and just preparing myself for just honestly a major reset. So, you know, currently building out what my plan is going to be for this next year, right? So in any event, I think I'm kind of getting sidetracked a little bit. Your ideal day. And so it's just something that I offer to you as food for thought, to think about, what does your ideal Tuesday look like? Not the special days, not the vacations and all of the lovely highlights, highlight reels of your life, but just that every day. What does it look like for you, right? And again, for me, it's pretty simple, but though those simple things are what would bring me the most joy, right? And the most peace. And that is what, I am, actively pursuing, you know? So again, being able to answer that question, it'll not only clarify, your goals, right? But it'll also provide a bit of a compass for you to know what you want to focus on the most, right? So, you can use the answer to that question to identify, what aspect, of lifestyle design, is the most important, and begin taking the steps on how to begin building, rebuilding, resetting your current lifestyle to, begin to move in the direction in which you want your new lifestyle to begin, right? So just wanted to hop on here and just offer that as a little bit of food for thought for you when we talk about, lifestyle design. But, if you feel free to let me know in the comments what your ideal Tuesday would look like, or does your day already, is it already ideal, for how you want it to look currently? I'd like to definitely talk to you about it. So thank you so much for hanging out with me on this video. I'm wrapping that up, and yeah, I will see you in the next video. Take care.